Okay, so we're going to dedicate our Torah study tonight for the sake of the whole Jewish people. May our Torah form a Torah protection cloud to protect all of our chayalim. Nothing bad should happen to them. To protect all of Am Yisrael, to bring Yeshuas, to bring salvations down to the whole Jewish people. Rabbi Nachman always says that before you learn, you should daven. And in our generation, sometimes the easiest way to open us up to davening is through a niggin, through a song. So I didn't bring my guitar, so you guys are going to have to be my backup. Even if you've never heard this song before, it's a beautiful song. You'll learn a new song. It's Rav Shmuel Brazil's version of Moda'ani. So let's daven together. Moda'ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam 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 Hayshech ezata bi Hay bi nishmati ay nishmati bechemla Hay Abba emunatecha Hayshech ezata bi Hay bi nishmati bechemla Hay Abba emunatecha Didi nai 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 Hay nai 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 Hay nai 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 Beautiful. First of all, thank you so much to the Holy Rabbi for organizing everything and having us here. Thank you to every single person here for coming. Honestly, I wouldn't be here without you, because it wouldn't be the same without you. And seriously, every single person and your energy brings me energy and brings all of Am Yisrael energy. So thank you for being here, Ezrat Hashem. And thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for the zchus to be learning Torah together. And thank my wife for lending me to you guys. I'm going back to the army tomorrow morning, but she's tzaddikas, and she says go teach your shiur, and we'll hang out. We hung out on Shabbos, and so thank you to my holy wife for that. Ezrat Hashem. Okay, so this is Moda'ani Part 2. Today we're going to go deep into the words. Just a quick summary of what we learned last week. Some of the guys weren't here. Anyways, Chazar is important. In 3 minutes, we learned that Rav Moshe ben Machir, the student of the Arizal, he was the one who wrote the words of the Moda'ani, brought it down to Am Yisrael, these 12 beautiful words that begin our day, and that it basically spiritually is taking the place of the Elokai Neshama, which in Talmudic times was our way of thanking Hashem for bringing us back our soul every morning. And so Moda'ani, without Hashem's name, replaced it in modern times, and it spread like wildfire all throughout the world to remind us to start our day with gratitude. And then we spoke about the concept of the Midrash, which teaches that the first person who inaugurated, who innovated Hoda'ah, thankfulness, was Leah. And we gave two pshat as to what exactly the Midrash is trying to teach us. Either that true gratitude is being surprised, being wowed when she had her extra child that she didn't expect, or that Leah teaches us to be thankful even when things are challenging, when things are hard, and that's why she's the first one who brings down gratitude to us. That was last week's shiur in 3 minutes. And you'll ask, so why would we spend a whole hour? Because we went on digressions, because we went much deeper, because it's not just about the punchline, it's about the process and getting there. So that was last week. And now we're going to go into every single word in the Moda'ani, Bezrat Hashem. But just before we do that, a few words of introduction. Rav Chaim Volozhin writes in his beautiful Sefer that if a person takes upon himself at the first moment of their day, which for us is when we say the Moda'ani, that they are going to serve Hashem, they're going to take the Ol Malchus Shamayim upon themselves, that is a great skula, there's a great power that will give you the strength to overcome the obstacles, all the spiritual obstacles, trying to take us away from our avodas Hashem, from our davening, from our learning. If you take, right at that moment when you wake up, right, you press snooze, and you, mamish, when you're saying, even maybe a moment before you say the Moda'ani, or as you're saying the Moda'ani, you take upon oneself the message of Moda'ani, as we're going to learn about, the yoke of Shamayim, that God is our King, that we're giving it up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that He runs the world. That's a tremendous help in our avodas Hashem. So there we go. Already in the first minute of the shiur, Chaim Volozhin is giving us an amazing tip of how to practically overcome the challenges of life. Okay, pretty good. Rav Shimshon Pincus, in his beautiful Sefer, writes that the Moda'ani is the yesod, the foundation of our entire day. All of the Siddur, it all begins with Moda'ani, because the beginning, what do we say every Kabbalat Shabbat? Sof ma'aseh b'machshava techila. It all begins in our first thought, the beginning of it all is Moda'ani. So we really got to understand the message of Moda'ani, because that's supposed to malaveh otanu, that's supposed to escort us throughout our day. Okay? He gives a great mashal. He says, imagine, this actually happened to me today. I was scooting, and I went down Pierre Koenig, and I was going to this special store where they sell like special army uniforms. I was going to buy one. I got a donor, because you don't have to tuck in the shirt here, and that way my commanders wouldn't bother me as much. And I was enjoying myself on my little ride down the bike path, true story. And apparently the bike path got longer, and I found myself, I saw this big mosque, and I'm like, what's going on here? And like, where's the turn to Rami Levi? And I'm lost, and I'm in this like Arab area that apparently the bike path goes to. Yeah. So I imagine if at that moment a policeman would have come over and said, "What are you doing here? This is not a good place for a soldier-wearing guy to be going without his gun." And I'd say, "Sorry, I just took the wrong turn. I got lost." On 1 to 10, how forgivable am I? Pretty forgivable, right? I mean, you make a wrong turn, it happens in life, right? But let's say I end up in the middle of Ramallah, right? I end up in the middle of Jenin, but not the part of Jenin where the soldiers are protecting the other side. And some police guy comes up to me and is like, "What are you doing here? How did you get here?" And I'll be like, "Actually, I have no idea." "Where are you going?" I'm like, "No clue. Just woke up and just drove to Jenin and drove to Ramallah." Like, that's pretty dumb. That's pretty unforgivable, right?
It's an unusual choice, to say the very least.
Yes, it would be a silly thing to do and an unusual choice, I would say. So, says Rav Pincus, if a person wakes up in his morning and does not know where he's driving to, that's like that guy who just drives into the middle of Ramallah. You have no destination, you don't know where you're going, that's unforgivable. Okay, if you get lost on the way, it happens to everybody sometimes. But to not even know where you're driving to, that's a problem. Yeah? So he says, where are we driving to? Rav Pincus says, the Moda'ani, the first thing that we do in our morning, that's the foundation of the day, that's reminding us, according to the Mekubalim, where we're driving to. The mission of a Jew is the Moda'ani. Yeah? So far, so good? So why? What is it about those first two words, Moda'ani lefanecha, that is the mission statement of a Jew? What do you guys think?
Gratitude.
Oh, answer number one says, what's your name again?
David.
Says David. Oh, not a coincidence, David HaMelech, right? He was the greatest thanker of Hashem of our generation, of ever. So says Rav David that the mission of a Jew is gratitude, right? And what's the proof? Yehudi. That's why I said a Jew. Hoda'ah. The essence of a Jew is thankfulness. The essence of a Jew is gratitude. The essence of a Jew is not taking anything for granted. Not anything ben adam l'chavero, and not anything ben adam l'makom. That's the whole mission of our lives. That's what we're going and davening. That's why we're learning. That's all. Everything can be encapsulated in the sentence, thank you. Modeh ani. Not ani modeh, but modeh ani. My essence is gratitude. My essence is thankfulness. That's who a Jew is. Sometimes Jews don't act like that. It's not natural. It's not always natural. The Yetzer Hara is pretty strong for us to not be thankful. All right, give me a proof from the Torah that even Jews sometimes can be not so grateful. Give me some proofs. I mean, look at the whole book of Bamidbar, like the entire book. Like all 40 years of the desert is one big kvetch fest, you know? It's like the whole thing. Our last week's Parshas Korach, from the beginning to the end, to be honest, it's a lot of kvetching. It's a lot of complaining. Not enough meat, the bread's not, the water, the this, the that. Granted, it was hot, you know, I get it. But still, there's a lot of complaining. Going back to Adam and Chava, when they had everything, they had all the fruits of the world, but they didn't. That one fruit was missing, and so that ingratitude it is the basic Yetzer Hara. It's very natural to be not grateful. But the essence of our neshama, of our Yetzer Tov, of our good side, is to overcome that and not take things for granted and be thankful. Moda'ani, that's our mission. It's our mission. In other words, says Rav Arush, that's the whole point, that it's not natural for us, and that's why our whole tikkun in life, our whole mission in life is to overcome that natural inclination to not be grateful, and to learn to train our brain to look for the good. Yeah? So that's answer number one by the Rebbe of David, that the essence of a Jew is to be grateful. And remind me, before the end of our Shiur, we're going to do a beautiful meditation to make that practical, to actually bring that gratitude into our lives. Okay, so make sure we don't leave before we do that. Because I would like this Shiur not just to be good lumdus, good steiging of every word, but actually practical ways to make our tefillah better. That's at least mine. And if you guys want to jump along, that would be great. So we'll make sure to bring that concept into us. There's a second answer of what is the Moda'ani trying to say that is the essence, the mission of a Jew. Moda'ani. So there's another meaning behind the word Modeh. What's the other meaning behind the word Modeh?
Confession.
Confession, exactly. Right? Like in Mishnah, we find very often the concept of Modeh l'miksas, which means I admit. An admission of guilt.
Does this carry over into modern Hebrew, this double?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same thing in modern Hebrew. And it's not a coincidence. It's not random and happenstance that the word means two things, but we'll connect it in a moment. Before we connect it, so what does that mean? Okay, I admit. If we want to take the second interpretation, not say Moda'ani, I am thankful, but rather Moda'ani, I admit. Okay? As Rav Kook and many other Mefarshim explain this first phrase of the day. So what do we mean? What does that mean? I admit. What are we admitting? There are many answers to this question, but what do you guys think? What exactly are we admitting in the beginning of our day?
Our incapacity to understand in advance how the day will unfold?
Okay, good. So one answer is, I admit I have no idea what's going to happen today. I'm totally I admit it. I like that. Okay, good. Like in other words, I don't know what's really going to happen. I'm going to try my best, but I admit that I don't know. Okay, what else? What else?
Submission.
Kind of I'm submitting myself. Moda'ani lefanecha. I submit that I am not in charge of the world. But I am lefanecha, that I am before God. I'm giving over the reins, so to speak, of my life. Who really runs the world? I admit it's Hashem. Because naturally, we don't want to do that. We can say it, we can all give a good shiur, give a good speech. Everything's been the best, Gamzu Taiva, thank you, Hashem. But at the moment of when something goes wrong, when we're frustrated, right? When you miss the bus and you really had to miss the bus, or when the doctor is taking way too long and you're going to miss, and whatever, you spill your coffee, or whatever, everybody's own thing, then you don't really feel like moda'ani. You feel like, it's not right, that guy messed me up, and this, and it's very natural to feel like I am in charge, and not Hashem is in charge. Oh, sorry?
I have been done out, done out or something.
Right. Why did I mess up? Or why did they mess me up? But moda'ani is saying, you're not first. Not ani modeh. Naturally, what's the first thing that we think of? At least most people. I think of, I have to go to the bathroom. Or I think, I'm really tired. I wish I get another hour of sleep. Or I think, why the heck is my kid waking me up at 5 a.m? Could he just stop crying already? Whatever it is, I'm thinking about me and my needs. That's ani. But
why haven't I gotten a kosher phone yet? So I don't have to think about whether or not to check the internet.
Good, exactly. The stupid WhatsApp. Whatever, everybody in their own. But this is saying, no, don't think. First, think thank you. And then, modeh, give it up to Hashem. Modeh, ani lefanecha. I am not in control of the world. I'm going to do my ishtadlus. I'm going to try my best. There is an ani. Don't get me wrong. Larry's looking at me like there's no you. No, there is a you. But first, it's modeh. First, I'm giving up the fact that that it's all me. I'm saying it's Hashem. Once we made that space and recognize that it's all God, then I come back into the picture. Then there's an ani. I have to be connected to this shlichus that I have. But it starts, this is what Rav Pinchas is pshat, with giving it up, giving the rulership of the world over to HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
It wasn't exactly the look on my face. I was thinking, it's also submitting to Hashem that you're in control of everything, including the return of my soul to me, and when I am waking up. And of course goes on to thank Hashem for that.
Exactly, beautiful. As we'll get to in a moment. But before we do that, I just want to tell one quick story, which I think explains the connection between these two words. So, Rav Shlomo Carlebach, in his Sefer, I wrote a Sefer which translates Rav Shlomo's different interpretations of the Siddur. And I was going to bring it tonight, but I left it in the Grashul. In any case, so in his Sefer, he brings the following story about moda'ani. There's a little kid, and the Hasidim are on their way to visit the Rebbe of Elimelech Milezhinsk, and they're so happy they're going to visit the Rebbe Rosh Hashanah, and they see this little kid who's dancing, and they say, this must be a high soul. As they get closer and closer to this boy, they realize that this boy is dressed in tatters. His mamish looks poor as heck, and he's dancing like crazy. Thank you. His mamish going nuts. So they go over to this boy and say, what are you so happy, boy? Like, what did you eat for breakfast? We want to get some of that. So the boy says, I haven't eaten for 3 days. So they're like, yeah? Okay. So what are you so happy about? So he says, no, you don't understand. Just a few minutes ago, I was crying. I was screaming to Hashem, I'm so hungry. Hashem, you run the entire world. You can do anything. Why can't you just give me a bissel of food? And I was fetching and I was screaming. And then at a certain point it hit me. You know what? Hashem runs the world. I don't run the world. And you know what? I'm missing a little bit of bread. But I still have a mommy, I still have a tati, I still have my arms, I still have my legs, I can still breathe. And he goes through everything in his life that he's thankful for. In the end, he said, the only little thing I'm missing is a little piece of bread. And surely Hashem, He runs the world. He's going to give me that too soon. And he was dancing and singing, and the Hasidim were impressed. And of course, they took him to the Hasidic courtyard, and he became a great Rebbe, Rav Menachem Mendel of Rimenov. But the point of the story for me is that in every situation in life, when it's easy, okay, it's easy to be happy. But when it's challenging, that's exactly the moment when you have to decide, are you going to just keep kvetching? Or are you going to hand over the reins of the world to Hashem, recognize that He runs the world? And I think that act of recognition leads to gratitude. Because I no longer think that I'm in control. I now recognize that He runs the world, and being able to kind of let go allows space for true, genuine gratitude, surprise, and all the things that we've been talking about for the last couple of years. You with me? So I think there's a connection. The hodah of admitting leads to this gratitude. The hodah of giving up and recognizing that Hashem runs the world also leads to that Rav Chaim Village, an act of Kabbalas Ol Malchut Shamayim that I'm taking upon myself today, and I'm going to try to daven, I'm going to try to learn, and Bezrat Hashem, that will get us to where we need to go. Okay? So far, Moda'ani, we've done our best to go deep into those words. There's one more thing I want to say about the words Moda'ani before we go onward. As I mentioned before, these words were written by a Kabbalist, a student of the Arizal. And every single, not just word, but letter has deep significance. Okay? I can't stay in Moda'ani forever. Eventually we have to move on. So we're not going to do all the Kabbalistic secrets of Moda'ani, but you should know there's a lot more. There's, according to the Hasidic and Kabbalistic masters, specific ways in which you're supposed to hold your hands if you want to get the shefa to come down when you say Moda'ani. And even every letter of Moda'ani has significance according to the Kabbalistic masters. By the way, Rav Chaim Mivital says, ideally when you daven, you should imagine every letter. Imagine the letters leaving your mouth and going to the heavens. And if you ever want to try a cool Shemona Esrei and you have a lot of time, you're at the kotel and you're not in a rush, I really recommend it. Just breathe and imagine the letters flowing from your mouth and going up to the heavens. Sometimes I do it, and it's really cool, and it really makes the words powerful because every word has significance. And so they ask, why is the first letter in which we say in the morning Mem? Why is the first letter Mem? What is the meaning behind Mem? So what's the gematria of Mem? 40, exactly. So why does it make sense that we should start our week specifically with 40? What does 40 have to do with the way we begin our day? 40, what associations come with 40?
Noah.
40 is Noah, good. 40 years in the desert. What else was 40? 40 days Moshe was on Har Sinai. 40. Rabbi Akiva was 40 when he started life. 40 seya in a mikvah. 40 is when the soul is said to come into the neshama of a baby, one level of the soul. So the idea behind 40, putting out all these things together, is birth, a new start, a rebirth. Mikvah is restarting our day. Noach, we're restarting the world. Moshe is getting the Torah, it's a beginning of the world. The neshama comes into the world at 40 days. So 40 is always associated with rebirth. And so it's not a coincidence that when we start our day, we're supposed to take a big breath and say, Mem, rebirth, restart. Everything that happened yesterday, that's yesterday. We're starting with a Mem.
I'm sorry, what was the 40 with the mikvah?
Mikvah, when you go into the mikvah, you're restarting your day. You're restarting your energy. And the seya is a measurement which the Gemara gives, is how we measure how big a mikvah is. Yes?
So Mem is composed of Chaf and Vav, which is not the 26.
Yafa. So Mem, we're bringing Hashem Mamish. Shifti Hashem Lenegdi Tamid. Beautiful. Beautiful. So we're not going to go into the Kabbalistic secrets of every letter of Moda'ani, but at least we began with a little bit of showing that each letter is significant, not just every word. Beautiful. Okay. So Modeh Ani Lefanecha. So the story goes that Rav Zusha, one time, he came late. Rav Zusha is the brother of Rav Elimelech, you know? You have to mention both of them. If I mention one, I can't not mention the other one in Shiur. So Rav Zusha one day woke up late for morning Seder. So his brother said, what happened? You know, where you at? So he says, no, you don't understand. I said the word Modeh, I was okay. I said the word Ani, I was okay. Modeh Ani, grateful. I said the word Lefanecha, I'm standing before Hashem, I fainted. I'm before Hashem, and Imamish, imagine like Hashem is right there in front of you, staring you in the face as you wake up in the morning, and Rav Zusha said every word, he meant it, so he fainted. Okay, so if you ever wake up late, you know, you can use that story. Say, I got up to Lefanecha, it was too much for me, you know, it was too much of revelation, come out. But anyways, Moda'ani Lefanecha. Mamish, this is the highest word of the day. What's the first halacha? If you look in the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, it's also I believe the Shulchan Aruch mentions it also. What's the first halacha? Even before Moda'ani?
What was that?
The first halacha, the first thing a Jew is supposed to contemplate and think about, Miskaber Ka'ari, exactly, and then Shifti Hashem Lenegdi Tamid. I place God before me always. So when do we practically bring that into our lives? Lefanecha. When we say the words Moda'ani, Lefanecha. I'm mamish standing before you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Moda'ani. And like we said before, I recognize, I admit, I am standing before you. And He's right there in front of us. And it's not natural. It's easy to say that. It's not natural to feel that. To really feel like Hashem is in front of me all the time. It's not easy, it's not natural, but that's our mission. Yeah?
This is what it really bugs me when I'm davening and somebody like turns around, like you're done davening, they turn around, like you know what I'm saying? Like they're in my field of vision, which is a sidetrack. Like,
what do you mean they turn around?
Well, like if someone is standing in the front of the davening, they turn around, so they're like facing me while people do this at the end of the davening.
Because you're saying we're supposed to be standing in front of Hashem. I hear you. Yeah, no, it's true. It's not an easy thing to really feel like you're in the presence of Hashem in the day-to-day. I'll give you a proof. Okay, I give you a beautiful. I heard a beautiful shiur. I'll summarize a beautiful idea. Parshat B'Shalach is very strange. The Jewish people are kvetching. The water, they didn't have enough water, and you guys remember all sorts of things they were complaining. And Moshe's like, I can't take these people, just kill me now. Like literally, that's what he says. They're kvetching and kvetching and kvetching. And then the weirdest thing happens. They have this war about Amalek that we're going to talk about at the end of this year. And then in this war against Amalek, everything's cool. Moshe just draws up battle plans. He lifts up his hands. They go to war. They knock down the Amalekites. No complaints. Life's good. We destroy our enemies, and then we go back, and then we start complaining again. So the question is, what's going on? Why are they so good about fighting wars, but so bad about the day-to-day things in life? They're fetching about everything else. So one interpretation I heard from Rifki, one of the women who teaches a shiur in Aleph Beta. I heard this shiur last night, just randomly popped in, is the following passage which explains everything. Am Yisrael say, Hayesh Hashem b'kirbeinu o ayin, or something like that. Imayin. Normally we explain that to mean the Jewish people are asking, is there a God or not? But maybe what they're really asking is, we know that Hashem can fight the big wars. We saw Kriyas Yam Suf, we saw the 10 plagues. That stuff, a God who can beat the enemy in great wars, we believe in that God. But who's the God who they struggle with? the God of the day-to-day, the God who's going to take care of them when the little things are annoying. They saw the big God. They could understand, they could contemplate a God who does the big things. But the God who's involved in the tiny little things in my life, right? That is very hard. And that's why Rabbi Nachman says it's very important to daven for the little things. I did it today. It was 6:17. I had to get into the doctor's office. I was waiting there for an hour and a half preparing this year. It happens. I had to get to the doctor. And I needed to get in there because I had to make mincha and get here on time. And I was waiting there all day. And I just said, Hashem, please let this doctor open up his door. And Baruch Hashem. And he opened up the door. And here I am. And everything worked out. But Rabbi Nachman says it's so important to daven for the stupid little things. Not because Hashem's always going to say yes. Sometimes he'll say no. But because davening for those stupid little things is bringing Hashem into the little things in your life. I have a Rabbi, whenever he needs a cab, he doesn't do get. What does he do? He does the Moshe. He just lifts his hands up to the heavens and davens to Hashem that he should send the cab.
Or a parking space.
Or a parking space, So try it at home, see if it works. That's the trick. Lifanecha, to bring Hashem into the little things in life. Okay, good. Melech chai v'kayam. Melech chai v'kayam. So let's start word by word. What is it? What are we bringing into ourselves? Because davening is not about out. It's bringing into our neshama and into our consciousness certain concepts, especially in the beginning of the day. I know we're all groggy, but still. So what are we bringing into ourselves when we say the word melech?
Can I back up a word?
Sure, no problem.
Okay. From our discussion so far, do I understand that we could read Modeh Ani L'Fanecha to mean I admit that I am before you?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks. Okay.
Exactly. We gave two interpretations. We said either we're saying Modeh Ani, my essence is gratitude, or I'm recognizing, and then we gave really two interpretations about what recognition is, and one of those is I'm recognizing that I am actually in front of you. And not in some philosophical way, but in some real, actual life way, that Hashem is mamish here. Okay?
What's the second recognition?
And the second recognition, we said, I recognize that I'm not in control of the world, that Hashem runs the world. It's related. It's just a different nuance. Okay, good. Melech. What do we think of when we think of Melech? What do you guys think of when you say the word Melech? Sorry?
He's the sovereign.
Sovereign of the world, the king of the world. Yafeh? So there's a halacha. Actually, in the mornings we learn a halacha every day. And we learned last week a special halacha that you say on a king. The special halacha that God gave His glory to Basar V'Adam. You're supposed to go out of your way to see a king. And there's a big discussion amongst the poskim. Does that apply if you were to see Bibi today? Does that apply if you were to say Mr. Trump, President Trump? Would you say the bracha today? So some say yes, right? We know Rav Y said the bracha when Trump was inaugurated, and some poskim say no. Why not? I mean, they're powerful people. Some poskim say it's only a king means someone who randomly can right now say Raphael dead, doesn't need a reason, right? Only someone who mamish can do whatever he wants because he's completely in control is what we mean when we say melech. So I was going to say Putin probably is probably the closest that we can think of. Maybe some other dictatorships we could think of. So him you probably could say a bracha. There's a different discussion if someone's a Russia, do you still say the bracha on him? Seder, well, when we have our politics here, we can discuss who's a Russia, who's not a Russia, who's a Russia in Russia. But the point is that a melech means someone who has complete control. Okay? So melech means someone who's all-powerful, and like David said, not just over this world, but over all the galaxies. In Rav Aryeh Kaplan's beautiful book, Jewish Meditation, he suggests you mamish meditate going out of this world into all the universes, and mamish, God rules over everything. So melech, like the gematria mem lam and chaf, someone who's controlling, someone who controls everything. you're supposed to shiver a little bit when we get up to the word melech. Okay, we're supposed to feel the same way, when you're driving and you suddenly see the policeman, right next to you, you feel a little bit, oh shoot, I should probably, right? So melech means God is powerful, and we're supposed to be a little bit in awe. And at the same time, we'll get to the nice parts of Hashem too, don't worry. Chai v'kayam. What do we mean? This is a little bit more tricky. Right, last week we discussed David Melech Yisrael, Chai v'kayam, the first usage of this phraseology. On a Pashat level, what does it mean that God is Chai? God is alive. It's a strange thing to say. Strange way to describe Hashem. He's alive. So remember that there was a famous newspaper, God is Dead, that they wrote in the 60s. So what does it mean when we say He's alive? Yeah. Sorry? Nietzsche said that too, right? Exactly. So what does it mean to say He's alive?
We're taught in biology class that one of the qualities of living things are that they reproduce. So it's counterintuitive. I wouldn't even necessarily translate a living these days.
So that's in a scientific way, but I don't know if I would think of it in terms of what we're trying to convey now in terms of Hashem.
Yeah, it's a matter of translation.
Whenever we're doing this, we're always going to have to go back to where else do we see this word in Torah? Where else do we see Chaim? What is the definition of Chaim? What do we see? Sorry, life. But where in the Torah? Eitz Chaim. Eitz Chaim He. The tree of somehow the Torah, which is encapsulated by the words Eitz Chaim, is alive. Sorry? Plurality. Us and Hashem.
It's active and it also grows, changes.
It grows, it changes, exactly. I saw that in some of them farshim, they say it's not, it moves, it evolves, it's alive. It's not just something that's static.
Because we actually define our relationship with Hashem, and therefore we change Hashem k'viyachol.
So you're going very Rabbi philosophical here, right? So that because we change, Hashem in a way changes. Yafeh. Beautiful. What comes to my mind is the pasuk V'atem advekim b'Hashem Elokeichem Chaim kulchem hayom. That those who were attached to Hashem through Torah, through Tefillah, you are alive. Because this is the way I understand it. God is the source of life. And so when you're connecting to Torah, like we're doing right now, you're connecting to the generator of life. So life being something that, energy, electric. At least that's what I imagine.
In connection with what you and I think Paul just said, and in light of the fact that we're reading everything in all its ambiguity, can we understand Moda Ani Lefanecha Noahide? Can we understand Noahide to refer to the Ani of the poem in connection with the source of life that the speaker is admitting this connection?
So you're saying the Ani gains its vitality by virtue of being connected to a Melech who's Chai. We gain our chiyus, our vitality. Rabbi Nachman says, where do you get your vitality in the morning? From davening, from your tefillah, from your moida'ani. So the chiyus comes from the chai. Yafeh. Okay, so definitely a lot more to unearth in terms of what is chaim. Why we begin our Rosh Hashanah is all about chaim. Bachartem b'chaim. We'll leave it for now. Zvat Hashem. Another day we'll get back to what do we mean exactly by that. Tov, Chai is alive. Maybe I would say relevant. That's another way that seems correct to me. Chai v'kayam means it's not something that's dead. It exists philosophically, but it's not relevant in my life. Chai is something that matters. That's relevant to me. And at the same time, v'kayam. This is even tougher. What do we mean when we say God is Kayam? endures, exists. That's what the art scroll would say. But like, what is it? What are we feeling? What are we thinking? Vitality, you're saying? Okay. So he is the source of that vitality. Why? Why? Ask Hashem. Okay. Maybe what I was thinking is a little bit close to what Rafal was saying, that on the one hand, God is chai, he's evolving, he's bubbling, he's energetic, but at the same time, he's kayam, he endures, he exists, he's the anchor, and it's never going to change. There's one element of God which is chai, which is vibrant, but there's also an element of God which is rock solid and endures and doesn't change. Unlike us, we wake up in the morning and every day we're different.
If you look at the sun seems like one thing that's the same, but if you look at it up close, there's a million things going on there.
Right, so you can have two elements at the same time. Good. Let's keep going. Chai v'kayam. Shechazarta bi. Okay, so we finally made the crux of what we're thankful for. So what are we actually thankful for? Shechazarta bi nishmati. That you brought me back my soul. Okay? As we mentioned last time, does that mean that when we're sleeping we're dead? No, we're alive. But the Gemara says 1/60th of our soul goes to the heavens. And the Kabbalists explain that there are different levels of the soul. Right? 5 different levels. And one aspect of our soul goes to the heavens and goes through the wash. And God cleans us out. And he could just take it back to himself. And in fact, the soul doesn't want to come back, explains the Kabbalist. Soul's like, no, don't make me go back to this Yetzer Hara full of world and all these taivas and all these challenges. But Hashem shakes the soul back and throws it back into the world. Shechazarta bi nishmati, and gives us back our soul. And we don't get somebody else's soul. There's a movie about when the soul that gets mixed up with another soul. No. When I was a kid, my mom says my grandma watched over to make sure that the babies didn't get switched, because they all look the same. So she's very nervous that, But Hashem doesn't get confused. He sends each of us, B'nai Yisachar, our soul. Everyone has their mission, their shlicha shechazar to be nishmati. God gives everyone back their soul. By the way, derech hagav, when exactly does our soul come back to us? So, in other words, let's say I wake up in 3 in the morning. So did I get my soul back? Or is it only in the morning that I get my soul back? Yeah? 3 is the morning. Okay, let's say it's, I'm saying, but is it daybreak? Or is it when I wake up? And so if I wake up 3 times, does that mean my soul comes back 3 times? So probably intuitively, I think most of us would have said, no, every time you wake up, like your soul comes back. That's what I would have said. Interestingly enough, when I was researching, this is a machlokes. Okay? So says the Gra in the morning. At daybreak, at nates, that's when your neshama comes back to you. Could be when you wake up at 3 in the morning, you have other elements of the soul, but the soul actually only comes back to you in the morning. Says Rav Chaim Falaji, the Kaf HaChaim, right? Amazing, wrote 84 Sfarim, great Kabbalist. So the Kaf HaChaim is Choylek, and he says, no. It's when you wake up. When you wake up, at any time that you wake up, it comes back. So I was reading, there's some who try to explain that they're both true. In other words, there's different levels of the soul.
Because there's different parts of the soul.
Different parts of the soul. And there's also those who say that when you say Shacharis, when you daven, when you're saying your Kriyat Shema, you daven your Shacharis, and different elements of the soul are coming through. Certainly, this aligns with halacha that the ideal time that you should daven is at nates, right? And if you guys have, I'm sure you've all experienced that there's something special when you daven nates, especially for me when I go to the kotel and you're outside, you just feel something special. It's something's coming into you. So I ain't no soul doctor, says that's why I'm just bringing you with the soul doctors or the great rabbis tell us. The soul's literally coming back to us every morning.
Is it the same part of the soul every day?
Wow.
I don't know. I don't know exactly. You saying maybe we get a different part of our soul to do different tikkunim? Fascinating. There is a concept in Kabbalah called Ibur Neshamos, where you can get a special degree of extra soul that comes back to you from a different reincarnation to help you with a specific mission. But we're not doing a shiur on Gilgul right now. I don't know. I'm very far from a soul expert. We have a concept that some level of the soul comes back to. Shechazarta bi nishmati, and this is a great kindness, right? It's a great kindness. It's not muvan me'elav. We don't necessarily deserve to get our soul back, but nonetheless, Hashem, as the Midrash teaches us, gives us back our soul every single morning. He gives us another chance. Okay? And because our time is short, that gets us into our final phrase of Moida'ani, and that is Rabba Emunatecha, which in some ways is the most challenging phrase. Great is your Emunah. So whose Emunah is great? His. Who's he? Hashem. Great is Hashem's faith. Okay, and we said last time, what is this a quote from? Where do we get this phraseology? Where did Rav Moshe ben Machir get this phraseology from? From Eicha, from the 3rd chapter of Eicha. That's why the Mishnah Berurah stresses, it's Rabba, Shechazarta bi nishmati bechemla, Rabba emunatecha. Rabba emunatecha is its own phrase. I skipped a word, I'm sorry, I just realized. Bechemla means with kindness. Okay? Ask the Gra, what's the difference between chemla and chesed? And the Gra explains that chemla is actually when you were angry at someone. Like there was reason to be angry, and God lets it go, lets you off the hook. Because the Gra suggests that there's actually a din in Shemayim every night, where our soul goes to the heavenly chambers, and even though there would be an af because we're not doing our mission perfectly, but Hashem gets us off the hook with great kindness and mercy, and chemla pardons us and gives us another chance. Okay, so that's the Gra's interpretation of chemla. There are other interpretations, but I thought that was a beautiful one. Rabba emunatecha, great is your faithfulness. So in what way is God full of emunah? How is God faithful to us? Sorry? We're still here. What do you mean? Where's the faith? His faith. He believes.
As much as we trust him, he trusts us much more.
Yeah, fair. Okay, so let's give the two basic shots. Let's break it down. Yeah.
I want to read this in light of the submission that we've established as kind of a baseline for understanding the poem, the total submission of the speaker. I want to understand this as saying that even my faith belongs to you, Hashem.
Oh.
I'm telling you how great it is.
I like that. You guys hear? Beautiful chiddush. What's your name again?
What?
Remind me your name?
Ellie.
Ellie has a beautiful chiddush. He's saying, even my emunah, I'm giving to Hashem. I'm saying, even I'm giving up to you, Hashem. Please help me have emunah. Gorgeous. Even my emunah is really a gift from Hashem. I love it. But on, let's say the simplest level, pshat number 1 is God is faithful, like mafeneman, faithful. In what way is he faithful? Because he took our soul, and he, so to speak, made a promise that he's going to give it back to us. And even though we don't really deserve it, because of all the junk we did yesterday, but he keeps his promise, he cleans us out, and he gives us another chance. Okay? So that's the basic interpretation of the Midrash. What does it mean? Rabba emunatecha. And again, you could connect it to Eicha. Even though the Jewish people sin so much and we're experiencing this golus and the whole Eicha is about all the tragedies that are happening, he still is faithful to us, he still loves us, and he still gives us a second chance. And a second, related but a little bit of a different nuance, like Rav Sadia Gatwan teaches, great is your faith in us. You believe in us. Sometimes Hashem believes in us even more than we believe in ourselves. And what's the biggest proof that he believes in us? We're here. Because if he didn't believe in us, he wouldn't give us a second chance. He wouldn't put us back into the world. The fact that he put us back into the world means that even if I messed up yesterday, today's a new day. I can overcome my challenges and succeed in my shlichus, whatever it is. And Hashem believes in me, so I can do it. Beautiful. I want to give one more We have Eli's pshat. I want to give one more little nuance on what does emunah mean, based on last week's parsha and also based on the story we've been alluding to of Moshe and the war against Amalek. So in this last week's parsha, Moshe Rabbeinu has a little mess up, and he hits the rock. Right? You guys heard about this? It was a crazy story. It was wild and crazy. There's lots of interpretations of why he made that mistake. We don't have time to go into all the different beautiful interpretations. But the pasuk which Hashem says to describe that mistake, he says, Ya'en lo ha'emantem bi la'akdisheni. You did not believe in me to sanctify me. It was a lack of belief. Somehow Moshe, the greatest man in world history, but there was a tiny little bit on his madrega, a lack of emunah. He just lost Miriam, who was the great, and he's in.
She gave him life.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. She gave him life. She gave us faith. She was the one who believed in Moshe, who never gave up on Moshe. And she was the one who sang the song of faith at the sea. Beautiful. And when he lost Miriam, maybe that was mashpia on him, on Moshe Rabbeinu, a little bit. She's much more than a sister. She was a pillar of what is emunah. And in other words, I want to define the word emunah like this. Emunah, to me, is not just, do you believe? Do you believe in God? Emunah is the following. Moshe Rabbeinu is told, lift up your hands. And when you lift up your hands, we're going to defeat our enemies. And he's very tired. He's very tired. And he's been lifting all day, and it's impossible at a certain point to keep them holding. But at a certain point, his chur and his brother lift up his hands. And what does the Torah describe that moment as? Yadav emunah. His hands are emunah. So what's emunah? I think it means dafka at that moment when it's challenging, when it's hard, when you want to give up. And then you keep pushing, and you're faithful to your mission, that is emunah. Right? Yesterday I was at the kotel, had one Shabbos off. I said, I'm going to do my shlichus. I'm going to try to make a Karl Bach minyan at the kotel. But it was hot, and my wife wanted me to take the kid, so I got this crazy 2.5-year-old kid that I got to somehow entertain and figure out schlepping him to Shari Chesed to the kaisel. And I got there a little late, so none of my people were still there, none of my chevra. And it was 8:45, and Shacharis, and I get a guy, and I put him over there, and I go out to get some more guys, and he's already gone. And then I do it again, and I get another 3 guys. And, hey, you'll stay, don't run away. And I get another guy, and they're gone. They go to the other minion right over there. I'm going crazy. And this goes on for literally a half hour. And at a certain point, I'm just I'm like, Hashem, it's too much. I'm just gonna hop the 9 o'clock, hour and a half train, get back to home and forget it. But something inside of me said, all right, just keep pushing, And Shacharis, and kids are somehow we got a minion. And it was beautiful, we sang, it was amazing. But maybe it's exactly at that moment when you want to give up. When everything's amazing and your life is flying high, that's one level of emunah. But the real emunah is exactly at that moment of challenge, when you want to give up, when you want to complain, you want to just give in and not go be ne'eman, be true to your shlichus. That's a lack of emunah. We're not blaming Moshe Rabbeinu. Obviously, we don't understand. But there was a little bit of a lack of faithfulness towards his shlichus at that moment. And that's the emunah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu believes in us every single day. He believes that we can fulfill our mission despite everything that happened yesterday. He gives us one more shot. I told you we wouldn't leave it. There's one practical way of bringing Moda'ani into our lives. Besides all the fancy schmancy lumdus that we did today, I just want to do one quick meditation. So everybody just, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and imagine you jump, it's really hot, and you decide to jump into the Kinneret for a beautiful swim. And it's so cool, and you're feeling delicious, and you're so happy. And there's just one little problem. You don't know how to swim. You never learned how to swim. And you start going down, and everybody can hold your breath, and you're going down and down and down and down, and you're begging and flailing, and your life is flashing before your eyes, and you're begging Hashem, save me, please save me. And you're going down and down and down, and you're begging, you want to live. And you're about to blank out, and then somebody sweeps you out, takes you out of the water, and you can breathe, and you're alive. So I think that's an amazing way of starting off our morning. Just to creatively remind ourselves that life is a gift, that life is not something to be taken for granted, and that every moment of life is a gift from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And with that little thought, I think we can jump into our Moda Ani with new life, with new zest, with new zeal. B'ezrat Hashem. Hashem should bless us all with a week full of simcha, full of hakaras hatov, and B'ezrat Hashem, can't wait till next time we have an opportunity to learn tefillah together. B'ezrat Hashem. Shkoyach to everybody for coming once again.
Yibane, Yibane, Hamikdash, Yitzion, Yitzion.